France remains on high alert after a deadly supermarket hostage drama. Too young to marry, child brides in Nigeria speak out. And we turn up the sounds of Senegalese Afro jazz with Sahad and the Natal Patchwork. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. The hostage standoff in southern France on Friday is over, but not before 3 people were shot and killed in the town of Trèbes when a gunman held up a car, opened fire in police and then took hostages in a supermarket while screaming Allahu Akbar. Police later stormed the market and killed the assailant. French Interior Minister Gérard Collomb named the 26-year-old attacker as Radouin Lactim. Collomb says he believes Lactim acted alone and told reporters that he was known for committing petty crimes and possession of drugs. French President Emmanuel Macron said evidence suggested the gunman's actions were considered terrorism. France remains on high alert after being hit with a series of Islamic State extremist attacks since 2015 that have killed more than 200 people. Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday met 107 schoolgirls freed by the terrorist group Boko Haram. He promised to secure the release of any of their classmates still held in the remote northeast. The freed girls say they were treated well, but there were mixed emotions as 5 of the kidnapped girls died during their time in captivity, and 1 girl still is being held. Buhari pledged to continue to work for her freedom as well as that of the remaining Chibok girls. Their seizure in the town of Dapchi hit Buhari politically by undermining his claims a year before an election to have ended Boko Haram's nearly decade-long insurgency. Much of northeast Nigeria remains lawless and beyond government rule, and insurgents still stage attacks from strongholds near Lake Chad. Now, Nigeria has the largest number of child brides in Africa. The practice is most prevalent in the predominantly Muslim north, where conservative Islamic groups staunchly resist efforts to criminalize child marriage. Chika Udwa reports from Kaduna.
Rahmatu and Najatu didn't know each other a few months ago, but their similar circumstances brought them together. Both girls are 14 years old.
I was being forced into an arranged marriage. That's why I ran away. I don't love him and I don't know him. I had never seen him before. A date was set and the night before the wedding I ran away.
Rahmatu and Najatu are living in this children's home in Kaduna. They don't want to return to their villages further north. In villages like this north of Kaduna, girls are typically married by their early teenage years, whether they want to be or not.
Had I had the choice, they should have given me a year to graduate from school. But since this was what the parents wanted, I had no other choice.
Well, of course you would be nervous or scared. You cry on your way to your new home because you're leaving your parents and you don't know where you will be taken.
I had no interest in it at the time. I was just doing my own thing. Marriage was not on my mind until when God wished it was time.
14-year-old Basira Bello is soon to be married to Salihu, who is 20 years her senior. She is excited at the prospect. Her father expects her to follow Nigerian customs.
She has been told everything she should know, because she is useless if she disobeys her husband.
At the federal level, Nigeria has outlawed child marriage. The Child Rights Act of 2003 mandates that both parties be at least 18 years old before marrying. But it's left for states to ratify the act, and most states in the north have not. This lawyer says a girl's readiness for marriage cannot be determined by her age.
A girl of 13 years old, if she is not physically okay, if she's physically challenged, maybe she doesn't have a sound mind, she could not comprehend, she could not differentiate between the right and the wrong, she's not fit for the marriage. She's not ripe for marriage. A girl of 9 years, if she's sound, she's physically okay, she can go in. Because in Islam, there is no barrier to that.
As for Rahmatu and Najatu, they want to stay in Kaduna to go to school. They say they hope their families will eventually forgive them for running away. Chika Odua for VOA News in Kaduna, Nigeria.
A former Minneapolis police officer charged in the fatal shooting of an unarmed Australian woman has been released from jail. Mohammed Noor, a Somali-American, did not speak to reporters after posting a $400,000 bail late Wednesday. He is charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter in the fatal shooting of a 40-year-old woman in July after she called 911 to report a possible sexual assault in the alley behind her home. The shooting created a furor in the United States and Australia, where the meditation instructor who was engaged to be married was remembered. Noor's next court appearance is scheduled for May the 8th. Now, the ongoing wave of ethnic violence sweeping through northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo has forced tens of thousands of people from their homes. The United Nations Refugee Agency says nearly 50,000 people have crossed into Uganda. Halima Athumani reports from the Sebagoro landing site in western Uganda.
They arrive exhausted and traumatized. It's a dangerous 5-hour journey across Lake Albert. They have little with them. Many lost track of family members as they fled communal violence in the Ituri province of neighboring DRC.
When they came in the night and launched the attack and killed many youth who were in the neighborhood. I was inside the gate and heard cries outside. When I got out to check, I found all my neighbors have been killed with machetes. I was forced to run.
Tit-for-tat conflict between the Hema and Lendu communities in Ituri has simmered for decades, often over land. Survivors say, unlike in the past, they were given no warning of recent attacks, and women are not spared.
They burned my house and all my belongings, so we had to run empty-handed. Even the clothes I am wearing now were given to me by Good Samaritans at the border.
The UN Refugee Agency said 4,000 people from Ituri crossed into Uganda in the span of just 3 days in mid-March. The steady influx has taxed local resources.
We don't have a transportation means, in the next 2 hours, so it's only tomorrow morning that we are going to transfer this one. Now, I would like to say that our objective is to ensure that whenever these people arrive here, they spend maximum 24 hours on the site, at the landing site, before they are transferred to the reception center where they can get more services.
The new arrivals will eventually make their way to the Changwali refugee settlement, many still coming to grips with the violence they fled.
I've heard on the radio the Lendu saying they are our brothers. But why is it that when those people come and start cutting people with machetes, arrows, spears, and axes, why is it that the soldiers don't retaliate? Why? That surprises me. If it's politics, we don't know.
Since 2016, Uganda has taken in more than 1 million refugees from South Sudan. The fresh influx this year from Congo has Ugandan authorities calling for urgent donor support. Halima Athumani for VOA News, Changwali, Uganda.
Now, 44 African nations have signed an agreement establishing a continental free trade area. Nigeria, Africa's biggest economy, did not sign, saying it would defend its own businesses and industry. South Africa, the second biggest economy, also failed to sign up. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa says his government will sign on once domestic legal requirements are satisfied. Now, Rwandan President Paul Kagame, host of the Trade Summit in Kigali, says the treaty will be good for Pan-Africanism and continental economic development. For more on how a small country like Rwanda stands to gain from the deal, Ambassador Olivier Nduhungirehe, Rwanda's Minister of State at the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Cooperation and East African Community, joins me live via Skype from Kigali. Good evening, Ambassador Olivier.
Good evening.
Yes,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks. What a great event you had there in Kigali. But first, do you have any sense of why such big economies like Nigeria and South Africa would, stay on the sideline from what is the biggest deal ever?
Yes, you are right. It was a big deal and historic event. 44 member states of the African Union, it's 80%. of the AU membership, and then they have signed this Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which is important for the integration of the continent. But of course, all countries can't sign at the same moment. There are countries that have political, constitutional, or legal challenges that they have to deal with. In the case of South Africa has signed the Kigali Declaration, which is a political commitment to address those issues and to join the deal, the agreement later on. Yeah. So we are confident that they will all join at appropriate moment.
Okay, one of the challenges they say Africa faces is that it has very small economies. Rwanda is one of those. It's a very small country. How does Rwanda benefit, and how does it benefit the other countries that are members or signatories to this deal?
Rwanda is already in free trade areas. The East African Community, we have a common market protocol. We are also in the COMESA, which I recall that in June 2015, we had also a tripartite free trade area with COMESA, SADC, and EAC. And we believe that it's important for all economies, big or small, to get into those deals, those agreements, because they are enabling those countries to develop an industry and to trade with the whole continent, and also to create jobs for the people. Now, I think we should not be defensive that we are small. We should also embrace these agreements and reform ourselves so that we can benefit from the agreements.
Now, that sounds really great. But tell me, a country like Rwanda, surrounded by the Democratic Republic of Congo, you have issues in Uganda, Central African Republic, South Sudan, how do you really open borders for free movement of people and goods? Is that realistic?
We did that already. We are trading with the DRC. We are trading with Uganda in the framework of the Common Market Protocol of the EAC, and Tanzania, and also Burundi, although for the latter, they closed the border with Rwanda. But in any case, we are already in the free trade areas, and we are trading with neighbors. So to extend this benefit to the whole continent, it will also benefit Rwanda, will benefit the jobs and the industry of our country.
Well, we look forward to seeing how it plays out. Mr. Minister, I look forward to talking to you again one of these days. Appreciate very much your insight.
Thank you very much.
All right. Olivier Nduhungirehe is Rwanda's Minister of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Cooperation, and also East African Community. Well, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends also. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at @VinceMcCory. Now, coming up, after the last male northern white rhino dies, a new film shines the spotlight on Africa's endangered animals. Stay with us.
Health news and notes. This is Living Better.
An Australian scientist is carrying a new device to an ambulance that could help first responders better diagnose and treat stroke victims. It's a helmet that uses microwaves to detect bleeding patterns in the brain. Researcher Michael Nilsson.
It's essential to know if it is a bleed or a clot, because nowadays the stroke units, they can treat patients with a clot and dissolve the clot.
And that could be quick help for a victim with a clot. But if the stroke is a result of a blood leak or bleed, different tactics are necessary for emergency health workers.
It has the capacity and the potential to be implemented in all ambulances globally. So it is a game-changing potential.
The stroke helmet will be tested in New South Wales emergency departments and then rolled out to ambulances in 2018. I'm Martin Seacrest for VOA's Living Better.
Well, being black and working in the tech industry can be an isolating experience. But at the Afrotectopia Festival in New York, it's what everyone has in common. Viewers Tina Trin meets with the creatives exploring the intersection of race and technology.
Glenn Kantav is a techie who loves sharing his work, which incidentally has always been influenced by his black identity.
My parents told me from a very young age that you will not be treated like your white friends. There are certain privileges that you do not have, and it's affected my conduct. It affects how I navigate spaces.
Kantav isn't alone. At the Afrotectopia Festival in New York, black technologists are talking shop and sharing their experiences of working in the notoriously homogenous tech industry.
You're one in a sea full of people that just don't look like you. It's usually white people working in tech, and so it's really important for us to be able to see ourselves and build this community of people that actually look like us and are doing amazing things.
For his part, Kantav and his team have created an educational augmented reality app on racism in American history. Idris Brewster works at Google, where in 2016, blacks made up only 1% of the company's U.S. tech workers. He wants to see more minorities become tech creators, not just end users.
There's algorithms being created in our world right now that are detrimental to people of color because they're not made for people of color. As a people, we need to start being able to figure out how we can get our minds and our perspectives in those conversations, creating those algorithms.
Jazzy Harvey uses virtual reality to highlight minority subcultures, like the custom car enthusiasts of South Central Los Angeles, shown here in her VR film, Built, Not Bought.
Protest doesn't always have to be, like marching. It's just presence. Some people are protesting literally every day or wearing their cultural clothes in the workplace. And there's a story behind that.
To come into a space where you don't have to assimilate culturally and you can just be yourself and talk the way that you actually talk and really have people that can connect with you culturally is just so important, especially when you're talking about things that you're passionate about, like tech, when it's a space where we're so often dismissed from.
Not so at Afrotectopia, where using technology to tell new stories is embraced by all. Tina Trin, VOA News, New York.
Now, the death this month of 45-year-old Sudan, the last male northern white rhino on the planet, rings the alarm on the imminent extinction of other endangered animals. The news also gives a renewed urgency to Kate Brooks' documentary, The Last Animals, about the threat poaching poses to the dwindling populations of rhinos and elephants. The film was showcased at the Environmental Film Festival in Washington. Viewer Penelope Pulo has more.
We get comments from people around the world that are watching Nola and seeing how she's doing through her illness right now.
Nola has since died. In an interview with the Voice of America, filmmaker Kate Brooks spoke about the impact of poachers on the remaining rhinos.
Southern white rhino population is around 20,000, with northern whites, the number's down to 3, and the last male, Sudan, is hovering around the natural age of death and not in very good health.
The day after this interview, Sudan died. At the Garamba National Park in Kenya, Brooks films clashes between park rangers and poachers.
The decision to go to Garamba National Park was really based on the fact that it is a place where there's a true intersection with the ivory trade and terrorism, that it's the last place the northern white rhinos lived in the wild, and it is the very front lines of the ivory wars where people, poachers and rangers, are being killed.
Kubunda tumbo to bunda rangana pare ke za ne bise zana ba rebele tro ba SPL ba elera.
Brooks says in the past 10 years, more than 1,000 rangers have been killed in clashes with poachers in conservancies and parks across Africa. Superstition that rhino horn is an aphrodisiac or can cure cancer makes it the world's most expensive animal commodity, and in many parts of the world, it funds terrorist organizations. Brooks' film, The Last Animals, advocates a strict worldwide ban on trade in rhino horn and ivory. Trophy, a documentary by Christina Clusio and Shaul Schwartz, makes the case that only legalized rhino horn breeding, which means trimming the horns of the animals every few years, can stop poaching and save rhinos.
So that's kind of the idea of utilizing animals in this if it pays, it stays way. Now, is that the answer?
One of the advocates of legalized rhino horn trade is South African farmer John Hume.
On the black market, the retail value of this horn would be $250,000. The operation is painless. It'll take 2 years before he goes through the same procedure again. All I need is for it to be legal.
I don't think that that is an answer. It's actually creating the message that somehow it's okay again. There's also the issue of, is it humane to even treat an animal in that way? And one of the things that you see in The Last Animals is that sometimes animals can be sedated and they don't always wake up.
While the debate continues, endangered animals die.
As the rhinos have gone, so have the elephants. In the year I was born, there were 22,000 in Garamba. Today, there are 1,200.
Penelope Pulu, VOA News.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Get ready for some awesome Afro jazz. Sahad and the Natal Patchworks is next.
Possible best and bring this girl back to us.
If we don't take care of what we have, we will definitely continue to lose it, and particularly lose other species that are currently endangered.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Ekene Ngige has found a way to combine his love for coffee and art, using the beverage to express himself at his studio in Lagos, Nigeria. He starts by sketching his subject on paper or canvas. He then uses a mixture of coffee and water to bring out his ideas. The artist uses instant or brewed coffee, saying this allows him to play with various shades of the same color and add depth in a unique way. So why coffee? One day, he accidentally dripped coffee on his sketchpad and discovered he liked the color and finish. Ngige is yet to exhibit his work, but he's planning to put his coffee art in a show later this year. Well, next up, Sophie is a very special fish, a remote-controlled underwater robot. She logs marine life and measures pollution, swimming quietly through coral reefs in schools of fish. This Massachusetts Institute of Technology prototype is less disruptive than other autonomous underwater vehicles. Sophie has a fish-eye lens. What else? To capture high-resolution images with a camera built into her nose. A diver with a Super Nintendo console controls her from up to 70 feet away. She can move in all directions, swimming like a real fish, weighing less than 4 pounds. She can swim for up to 40 minutes at up to 60 feet below surface. Well, and finally, a British fashion designer who once made the world's most expensive dress has turned her creativity to cakes. Debbie Wingham's black diamond dress, valued at £3.5 million, propelled her to global fame. She kicked off 2018 by making a 6-foot, $1 million cake in the shape of a traditional Arab bride encrusted in diamonds. Another client to commission a life-sized cake in the form of his girlfriend, who just so happens to look remarkably like the celebrity Kim Kardashian. He used the Kim cake alike, as she's calling it, to give his girlfriend gifts: a Cartier diamond necklace and an emerald and diamond bracelet. And that's what's trending today. Now, we leave you today with Sahad and the Natal Patchwork, a Senegalese Afro-jazz group that recently toured in the United States and performed for VOA's Music Time in Africa host, Heather Maxwell. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.
Duñu dugg liw naaw jëm kaw duñu dugg li xusi jëm ndaw saar bi pasiri de jóge dal daar ma xore jaba yàlla la di jàlla xéewal la boy bagas ko yàlla la ëxlu yàlla be bare ge ne sang bi neen ñu waajal magal ke olu di jàlla la be bare ge no sang bi neen ñu waajal magal ke ci ni mu gën a gaawee baba ayala la boy wi jàlla e wala la boy bagas ko yàlla la kañ dem saal dëggal de sang bi de wax ru yëpp da jaado ru yëpp dajal ñëw borom baani ñi nga ñëw dëgg la Kenya borom baani agala ke la la tijan mo nga gëna ay mara dëgg la Kenya boy sinim sa te tarabari ba bo ya la di ya la he wala na boy para go la ya la be barege ne sang bi ne ñu waajal magal ke oluri jallu la be barege ba boy ka ñu dem boy sang bi ne ñu waajal magal ke ci mu gën a gaawe
Welcome to English in a Minute. A corner is basically an angle where two sides meet.
Boxed in a corner.
Let's find out why these two are talking about corners.
What's wrong? You look worried.
My friend Nico quit his job, had a baby, and bought a new house, all at the same time.
How's that going?
Not good. He's out of